I think for anybody listening is it's really important that you know what part of your subscription experience is the most important thing for your business. The trick was, where can we find the right value of retention? What sweet spot on this entry-level starter kit price unlocks the best LTV? Because that is balanced out by conversion rate, as well as average order value, as well as the amount of subscriptions they stay on. Our audits they don't go quite as deep in the sense of we're not looking in every single crack or corner of the business, but that's because we know if I look at 50 things, I know that there's going to be 3 things that are going to be the most impactful for the business. So I don't really need to look at 49 and 50.
Hey guys, welcome to the CEO After Dark show. I have Matthew Holman with me from Subscription Prescription. It's difficult to say. Subscription Prescription and Commerce Catalyst. He's a subscription wizard, obviously it's in the name. And we're going to talk subscriptions, we're going to talk e-commerce, D2C, SaaS, and everything that he's done so far, which is a lot. Matthew, thank you for joining me.
George, thanks for having me on. It's going to be a great conversation.
What are you working on these days? Do you mind just giving us a little bit of context?
Absolutely, yeah. I've got my fingers in a few too many things, but I'm definitely doing a ton of work in the subscription space. So Subscription Prescription is both a media company and a consulting agency. We do a ton of work and research and consulting for clients on subscription-based practices, how to acquire subscribers better, how to retain subscribers better. And I'm also a partner in a software company that develops subscription software. So we do have some subscription tech as well as subscription tech related to like delivery solutions. So like that people can know when their subscriptions are going to arrive before they process. So you have more visibility or control. And then I'm out in Utah and we run a e-commerce community out here called Commerce Catalyst. We've got a really engaged Slack group and newsletter, and we do monthly lunch and learns and have an annual conference, actually, Catalyst 25.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
When it comes to subscriptions, do you focus on any specific tech stack, or is it like tech stack agnostic?
No, we're tech agnostic for the most part. I think that there's so many really great subscription softwares out there. They all have their own little quirks and like I would consider their strengths and weaknesses. So a lot of brands will say like, hey, who should I be using? And usually it comes down to more questions related to whether you're doing prepaid or bundles, like whether you have a ton of upsells or single SKU, when we're kind of like evaluating those systems. But, and after that, it's really comes down to like, our clients are using Klaviyo, our clients are using different upsell tools, Shopify or WooCommerce. So we get a little bit more particular in some of those, but yeah, we're fairly agnostic on the subscription tech stack side.
Is there some sort of like good objective resource that can like help somebody evaluate those subscription vendors? Because I mean, in my eyes, they evolve so fast. All of them, there's so many that it's kind of difficult to keep track of all of the little changes. So like, why not reach out?
There's really not. In fact, like. That's actually how Subscription Prescription came to be. Like we first started Subscription Prescription as a way to sell our software, but very quickly realized there's nobody trying to just help objectively educate the subscription community. And that's a mission that we've tried to take on. I think the other person in this space is Andrei Rudnick, is really great at helping people evaluate platforms. And then Brian Stark and his agency are out there too, doing some really great work with subscription brands as well. So there are a handful of people, but yeah, everybody's got their bias and everybody's got what their friend is using kind of thing. But it's often, it's an interesting question because I think that there's not a lot of training or a lot of really great thought on how to evaluate software correctly.
Yep.
Like I have a degree in information systems, so it's something I got education on, but in the Shopify ecosystem, for example, like it's mostly because somebody else is using it or there's a certain feature that they want. And so there's often not a great view downstream of how you're going to use the software, what ROI it's actually going to give you compared to another. So it's often more difficult to evaluate software, I think, in the space.
I think it's extremely difficult. And like, I'm going to speak for myself. I admit I don't know all of the differences. And we work with a lot of subscription companies. We work like with Yoto, Richards, Skio, Loop, even other smaller ones. But if you were to tell me like make a direct feature by feature comparison, I would not know where to start. There's like so many differences. They are constantly changing. So what I do is that like I basically default to recommending the people I like working with the most,
Right.
which by the way is Loop. I'm just gonna say it, but
Looks fantastic.
they're fantastic to work with. But I don't think this is correct, and I think there has to be some sort of agnostic resource that doesn't like promote something to get commission or like like you know how those things are, that actually
Yep.
helps merchants and educates merchants. So I think what you guys do is pretty beautiful in my eyes.
Yeah, it is, and again, it's something we've done. We've done content on that, but it's what the interesting is like the last time we did it was 8 or 9 months ago, and we talked about yacht post subscriptions a lot, and then now yacht post subscriptions is being retired, right? And so, and even like differences over the course of like say analytics, like Skio is doing a ton to overhaul their analytics, like everybody Recharge is rolling out new upsell features, Stay AI is rolling out new features, and so there's constantly like the game is kind of changing. So that's why it really does, I think, come down to like you have to understand. I think for anybody listening, is it's really important that you know what part of your subscription experience is the most important thing for your business. And what I mean by that is like if the subscription is that if like the most important thing is the fact that your product's just amazing, then the subscription software maybe really isn't that important of the process. Meaning, as long as it processes correctly and it triggers Klaviyo correctly, you're fine. But if you have, say, for example, have you're selling like a flavored drink mix, and people are regularly swapping and trying different flavors, then that ability to like have really easy swaps of flavors is a core part of your subscription experience. Okay.
Yeah.
If it's something that where people have to dial in the right frequency or cadence that they get their subscriptions, then that kind of, so again, like just being able to clearly understand that, hey, we know that this is really critical to our LTV because it's what keeps subscribers retained longer. If you can't identify a couple of those points, then a lot of the subscription software is really just about price and support and if you like them or not. If you can identify there's like a key metric, again, like if you're in the meal space, and so building a custom meal kit is really important for your acquisition strategy, then you should be evaluating all of the subscription softwares based on the ability to build a bundle and edit a bundle.
Yeah.
And that philosophy will help you pick the right ones because each of them do some of those things just a little bit differently. Like bundle builders that I mentioned, I think Atomic flies under the radar with their ability to manage bundles, right? Skio maybe isn't as sophisticated in the sense of like all the bells and whistles of their bundle features, but they actually do a ton right out of the box really fast. So those are just a couple like quick examples of like, oh, I know I need this. So you better start shopping for that and looking at that. And then you make sure that it does all the other things you need it to as well.
What's your take on Recharge specifically?
I think Recharge is like fantastic platform. Like they've gone, I think they've gone like 12 rounds in the Shopify ecosystem in the sense of like highs and lows. For a long time, they were on their old checkout. And so they had to spend a lot of time like getting merchants and getting their tech up in line with what Shopify wanted. But now that they've done that, I think they have the best analytics. They have the most analytics offers and reports available out there. I think other systems are starting to catch up a little bit, but they do a ton of features. The platform itself is really reliable. Their support, which they know was garbage for a long time, but they've actually invested a ton. I've met their new head of support, like and heard his philosophy and everything he's built. I know now, like live chat, you can get answers really quickly. Like, so I would say, like, I do like Recharge. And again, depending on the use case, it's not always my number one pick, my number one go-to. But if I have a client on Recharge, I know what I'm going to get, and I know that we can do a lot with it.
Okay, let's get down to the brass tacks. Like, how do you think about subscriptions? Like, what are kind of like the key learnings, or like what's the framework maybe that you guys are using?
Yeah, absolutely. Our methodology, the subscription prescription methodology, is kind of born out of this idea that we see a gap between how people view subscriptions. And that gap is two critical things. The first is that you think that subscriptions are a retention game, meaning once the order happens, it's about email marketing or just figuring out how to keep them. And so, and when in reality, subscriptions is very much has to do with how the type of people you attract, the offers that you give them. And so most brands, when they think about their subscription program, they're worrying about how to keep people on month 2 and 3 and 4, instead of worrying about how to make a better offer that attracts a better subscriber, that aligns with ICP better. And also there are tactics that you can use in the selling process to that naturally have better retention. So like selling a 3-month subscription has a higher AOV and retains better than a monthly subscription over 3 months, as an example, right? We've seen that universally. So that's the first thing, is that subscriber retention actually starts at the point of acquisition. It's an argument I get into all the time of which is more important, acquisition or retention. And as somebody who works in retention, I say it is acquisition, because if I can fix your acquisition, my retention stuff goes from trying to plug holes to maximizing LTV, which I'm sure you've had an experience as well. It's like, instead of trying to convince somebody to not leave, I get to convince somebody why they should upgrade, right? And that's much more fun and profitable for the business. And then okay, what's that?
I agree and disagree. I mean, I do agree that acquisition is like more important in the sense that you can't retain somebody to acquire them. But at the same time, I do think that, and this is not about what you said, it's like more about what it's in the industry. I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot almost, like in the retention marketing space, because I always feel that people are kind of devaluing the impact we can have. Retention marketers, they're like, oh, like unless you acquire, you can't do much. But it's not that you can't, it's just that you're a multiplier ultimately, right?
No,
like, so
I completely agree. So actually that is my second point, is that I think that brands don't do a good enough job of engaging with the subscriber after the fact. So I would say our methodology is to look at acquisition and how we're selling, because if you're just going discount, and you're confused why people are leaving, it's because they're discount seekers, to oversimplify what I mean. But after that, retention is so important, because I can't tell you how many brands we've worked with where they believe they have a very simple product, and yet they get questions about when they should take it and how much they should take it, and should they take it with something else. And there's no email flow that educates somebody on the best time to take the supplement, right? And so that's where I see the other side of the equation. It's, yes, we get better at selling to the right person, but then we also have to build out all these systems that educate and train the right person. A really common one might be like, say I'm taking a health supplement like testosterone. Well, shocker, taking it one day isn't going to transform my testosterone, right? You have to take it for, say, 2 or 3 months to start feeling really positive benefits. Well, what happens when your subscriber buys your product, they get the shipment, there's this great unboxing experience, they're really excited, they start taking it, and 5 days go by, they've been consistent about taking it, and they start going, well, I don't feel any different. Well, at what point did you educate them how long it would take to feel it? At what point were you introducing stories of other customers of how they, at 3 months, they felt transformed and all this stuff? And so just that simple problem of like addressing common questions or common issues is just not handled very well in the subscription space. And that's where I think retention marketing has to step up and deliver like really great subscriber experiences.
what we love to do is to kind of like not focus on the customers that feel well on the 3rd month, but on the 4th month, so that they stay for one more renewal.
Yeah.
And we do this very intentionally, and we think that we know that it works very well.
No, I agree. And I've seen brands with 30, 40, 50,000 subscriptions that make that little tweak in how they educate and onboard people, and their churn drops in half. So
I mean, just to understand, I mean, I'm always interested to understand the business side of things. So what is the business that you run? Do you go to brands directly and then you have some sort of auditing process where you find the gaps, or like is it a subscription? How does it work?
Yeah, we started out doing primarily audits, and we still do run audits as part of our process. But we do have a playbook for how we kind of like approach a lot of brands. And there's things that we look for, like we're looking at onboarding emails, we're looking at the upcoming billing reminder emails. A tool that we're a huge fan of right now is called Zamo. They're a Klaviyo embed. Yeah, so if you're, they're incredible with quick actions, one-click actions inside of emails, subscription functionality inside the emails. We look at portal setup, how people are addressing questions, cancellation reasons, what offers they're using. And then we spend a lot of time as well on the purchase experience. What does the buy box looks like? Like, what are the offers that you're using to try to get subscribers? So we kind of look at it like, offers, how we're collecting information and with post-purchase surveys, onboarding emails, unboxing, upcoming billing reminders, portal experience, and then all of the data we collect from those as well. Then we then feed back in and kind of go through it again and again and again.
Do you perhaps get not pushback necessarily, but how easy is it to truly change the offers that the brand is running? Because like if they reach a certain size, I'm assuming that they've already validated that the offer works to some extent on a cold media standpoint. So like for you to come in and say, hey, like change the offer seems kind of, for me at least, sounds
Yeah, yes and no. Like it's interesting. Like I think that the brands that I've talked to that are doing 50 million and up are actually very focused on testing different offers, and they actually. So let's say I'll back up and say this. So when you're smaller, you should be focusing on one core offer because you can't afford to create tons of different landing pages and manage a huge scale of different offers. Now, that doesn't mean that during the course of the year, you might switch that up. Like, at Black Friday, you might do a BOGO on gift options or whatever, or, you might do an extra steep discount on Memorial Day. Okay. But as you scale to like 10, 20 million, a lot of these brands start to differentiate different products or different offer strategies. Like you might have started with a gift with purchase acquisition strategy, but now you also have a starter kit, and now you also have a bundle builder, like for people. So there's 3 different types of purchase paths, and that you have ads and landing pages running to all those. And then as you get bigger and bigger, the brands have more resources to be able to test those various channels. And so a lot of those brands are actually, like, the brands that I've met that are really exciting to work with are very keen to, one brand, I can't say exactly who it is, but one of the things we were working on and that they were become really, really good on was they had it was kind of like a starter kit. They knew the more they discounted their starter kit, their conversion rate would go up in a direct correlation. Okay. Not everybody has that, but that makes sense. The trick was, where can we find the right value of retention? What sweet spot on this entry level starter kit price unlocks the best LTV? Because that is balanced out by conversion rate, as well as average order value, as well as the amount of subscriptions they stay on. So it's like those types of tests become a little more sophisticated for larger brands. But honestly, like if you look at a brand like ButcherBox, hundreds of millions of dollars, they are constantly testing different gifts and giveaway offers depending on the time of year or what they're running. And so I think that is like where if you're trying to acquire subscribers, you have to either test new offers or potentially roll out new products that you can use to try to like create different bundles and different options for people.
I think a lot of it has to do also with the positioning that you have as a service provider. Like what I often hear by people in our space, email marketing type of agencies, is that they're basically stuck charging for emails. Like you give 5 emails or 10 emails and then you price accordingly. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily.
Right.
But what it does is that Box is doing this, you're like the guy that designs emails. Whereas if I compare this to how you guys position yourselves in the market, there's like a very niche expertise. There's the community around it. There's like the media property. It all builds up the authority that you have in the space, which consequently means that when I, as a brand, come in and speak to you, I'm already, in a way, pre-sold that you are the guy that's going to tell me what I have to do. So probably I'm going to be much more open into testing what you also suggest that I test.
Yeah, mistakes we made early on were when I was first doing audits, they were incredibly in depth and they were overwhelming. And so we've actually changed that up a little bit. Our audits they don't go quite as deep in the sense of we're not looking in every single crack or corner of the business. But that's because we know if I look at 50 things, I know that there's going to be three things that are going to be the most impactful for the business. So I don't really need to look at 49 and 50 to see if they're going to be like that good or not. The other thing is that we do try to keep it fairly fluid in the sense of like, we try to manage a certain number of objectives each month. And so depending on what the client needs and what we want to do, it is a little bit collaborative in the sense of they've got goals they're trying to hit. We've got goals we're trying to hit for them. And often they think, hey, we want you to work on this and this. And we're like, okay, we'll do that and that, but we also want to do these other two things. Those are the four things we're going to get done this month. And so there is a little bit of a collaboration in that sense. And the thing that we're trying to get better at and that I want to be like the best in class at is tracking the data about what's happening and being able to show when we've made changes, good or bad, and seeing what's happened because of that, so that the brand can see that, hey, these guys aren't just spinning dials and the business keeps growing. It's actually stuff that's happening that's impacting the business in a positive way. So we do report on that stuff, but that is where I'm trying to take the business more and more is I want every brand to feel like they're going to know at any given time what we're doing, what impact it has, and whether it's worth keeping us on or not. Because if you have to ask yourself that question as a consultant or an agency, like you're halfway out the door if a brand is wondering like, what are they even doing for my business?
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
What are some mistakes that you see when you're looking at a lot of subscription
Yeah.
programs? So
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it again. I've said it a couple of times already. I think that one of the biggest mistakes is just not testing the offer enough. And when I say testing the offer, there are a lot of different brands out there that are trying bulk options, that are trying gift with purchase, that are trying bundles. Like if you're selling health supplements and you're not testing bundles, like I don't know what you're not thinking. Like who's ever sold, like your primary buyer for protein powder is also buying creatine and glutamine and amino acids and all this stuff. Why aren't you testing different ways, right? As an example. The other big mistake is I think that people undervalue the power of a great onboarding series of like, I'm sure you've seen it. The open rates on sometimes some of these email series are 60, 70%, like of your first couple of emails after you've made a purchase to a cold customer. And when I see a brand who's like upselling something right away, I'm like, what? Like if it's protein powder again, or let's use a sleep supplement. If it's a sleep supplement, you should be positioning why your brand is different, educating them on how they're going to feel, when they should be taking it, possible side effects, what to do if you're feeling A, B, or C, like success stories. That's 6 or 7 emails right there that can all be like really clean and have a single objective per email. Because that, as honestly, in my experience, like no matter what tests I run on a cancellation flow in a program, in a subscription portal, if I could do stuff to get your save rate from 10% to 15%, for example. But that onboarding email flow could improve your first month retention by like 10 or 20%.
yeah,
It's massively impactful. And then the final thing is just the upcoming billing reminder. One of my biggest like pet peeves is when I see a brand that's doing 20 million in revenue, 10 million in subscription revenue, and their upcoming billing reminder is like, hey, George, your order is about to process. Click here to make changes. It's like
yeah.
prime real estate that you're not using to remind people why they subscribed, the value or perks or benefits they're getting. And oh, by the way, here's an easy ad upsell for you. That's the
I
stuff that I
think
just, yeah.
I think what's like the most messed up thing that I've seen, and I told you before we pressed recording, is that there are companies and even big companies, like big companies, that are thinking that if I contact people, they're gonna cancel. So I'm gonna go radio
Right.
silent, and I hope they forget to have a subscription. It is totally insane, and like highly, I would say like unethical also. Right? Like I mean, you're doing what? You're trying to trick people. Like I mean, come on.
Well, it's like, so you're saying, so and I get in these debates all the time. And again, I get for really large businesses, if you're this far along, I get why it's scary to switch. But the idea is like, if somebody's forgetting that they've subscribed to you, that means they're going to cancel the day after the card processes. So
Yep.
you got one more purchase out of them. Okay. So you got one more, but then also you run the risk of chargebacks because they didn't get a reminder and they're mad at you. And trust me, the subscription chargeback win rate for the customers, like, they're really high. And then oftentimes the credit card company will award them all the other subscription payment. And then it hurts your billing rating and it hurts. So I just think it's also, then you have the missed opportunity with what happens if it's a protein powder and somebody, again, maybe use 2 scoops a day. I use one.
Yep.
So what happens when you run out and you don't get a billing reminder? Do you remember that you have a subscription, or do you go to cancel and then go get it off Amazon so you can get it sooner? I have too much. Well, what happens when I get that second bottle now and I'm mad about it? I go cancel instead of, maybe I get that email that allows me to just update my frequency so it aligns with my consumption. And so when at QPilot, the software I mentioned, we did we had 250 merchants, hundreds of thousands of subscriptions, and we ran a data analysis 3 years ago around LTV, and we found that anytime, if you can get a subscriber to update their delivery date or frequency 3 times, they are 200% higher LTV than the average subscriber that doesn't make those adjustments. If you can get somebody to swap their product 3 times, 600% higher LTV. So the idea is like, yes, your whole aggregate subscriber base isn't going to do much in a given month. They're happy to get it, they get it. But you have a 10 to 20% cohort every single month that is on the fence about canceling or needing to make a change or an update. And if you don't win on that 10 to 20% cohort, you're actually killing the overall profitability of the business, because that's the audience that you need to get. And I think that's what's hard for people to get. They think about the 100%. Oh, they send an email, 100% people are going to churn. It's like, no. Like, there's only a few people that are on the fence, but there are other people on the fence that you're missing out converting into these other actions.
What's the best way for somebody to kind of like learn from what you do? I know you have a newsletter.
Yeah, we've got a newsletter and a podcast. The podcast is about 2 years old. We've been doing weekly podcasts and weekly newsletters. The newsletter is about 3 years old now. And then on social, LinkedIn and TikTok, and not Twitter. I was on TikTok for a little while, but anyway, Twitter, post content there. And honestly, like, I'm happy to chat with anybody anytime. Like, I do tons of calls with brands of all sizes, just talking through strategy and ideas and stuff too.
And just for clarity, like, the website is thesubscriptiondoc.com. So in case somebody wants to check it out, they can go there. But I want to stay a little bit more on the broader business that you have, which is not just the prescription consultancy, but there's also like this event or the community rather that you have. And I want to understand how you build this. And let's maybe approach this from the perspective of what would you advise somebody trying to launch their own community? I'm interested in launching a community, so I'm the perfect audience.
Absolutely. And I talk about this a lot. I think the hard part with communities is, and I think this applies to subscription business as well, as founders, we have assumptions about why people want to come out. And we have to find ways to prove if that's valid or not. And so the community first started as just a very small group of people that were solo marketers at small SaaS startups. And so we just met for breakfast once a month. And then I thought breakfast would be the most convenient, because that's how I start my day. It's like, hey, I don't want to leave in the middle of the day. I'd rather go into work a little late than leave for a long lunch. Well, then we got feedback that lunches actually would be better for a lot of other people to come. So I was totally wrong. So then we start doing lunches and we start getting 10 to 15 people. And then and then my whole thing though, my main premise was, I want a group of people. I want everybody to go around the room and share the one problem they're trying to fix and let the group solve it for you. Because what I kind of hate is, I hate these events that you go to and like you have somebody who's say you're running a brand that's like $1 million a year in revenue, and you hear $100 million brand talk about how they're approaching their ad buying strategy. it often does not translate to your business at all, right? But if you start sharing like the lead magnet you were using or the pricing strategy you were using, like that stuff can be really interesting. So I like getting really into the weeds. So our group then went from a lunch to um, I wanted to try doing a bigger event because of this whole idea of really tactical stuff. And from there, it was I just invited some of the more popular people on LinkedIn in Utah that I knew and asked them, and they posted it, and we got 70, 80 people to come out. But the thing I think that's hard, the thing is that it's really hard to capture lightning in a communities. I think in a sense are lightning in a bottle. The community has taken on that kind of personality of mine of being very helpful and solution oriented. And so it actually has one of the more active Slack groups than other Slack communities I've ever been in, because people will regularly go in there to ask questions. And then people are in there regularly to give feedback. And so for a while, I was seeding that information myself. So I was giving people reasons to go to Slack. So that didn't just like happen. When we would do events, I would give away the slide deck from the speaker in the Slack. I would host live Q&As in the Slack on Fridays. I would tell people to go, if somebody would ask me, hey, Matt, do you know a good email provider? I would go ask the Slack. So I spent that first year, I was in there constantly trying to ask questions, get people to ask questions, answering questions. So I was doing a lot of the seeding work to try to build up the momentum. And after about a year and a half, it picked up enough momentum where it's now kind of like, I don't have to be the one doing that anymore. Like there's people in there doing that. And then at one point too, I thought, hey, larger companies than me are putting on events with 50 people. I think I could put on a really great event with a small team of volunteers. And it was okay. It kind of sucked. We lost a little bit of money. The second year, our location changed last minute, which kind of screwed us over. But it worked really well. But the idea is like, I think it's hard to appreciate how much time it takes to build a community. I'm technically 5 years into this, but the e-com version of it, it's like about 3.5 years old. And now I'm getting lots of word of mouth. I invite people to come participate, and that's how I then meet people. So like, if I know that there's a great brand here in Utah, say like Just Ingredients is this brand that's been blowing up in Utah for a number of years. I invite their founder to come speak on a panel. And then and now that founder knows me as like the Commerce Catalyst guy. And so now when I invite them to come back or other stuff, like we have a rapport. And so, and other brands want to come hear from this founder. Right. And so that's kind of like this idea of it's a cyclical effect. You got to keep showing up. I think in my opinion, it's really hard to manage a purely online community, because it's really easy for people to postpone. Like if you did a webinar, it's really easy for people to not show up because there's a recording. So we'd have a blend of in-person. What's that?
That's what I meant to ask. Is it like totally offline, or is it like an online, like can I from Europe, for example, can I like join the Slack, or how does it work?
You can come in the Slack, and there are some things that we are recording and live streaming now, but the idea is we are fairly hyper localized in Utah in the sense of we're doing lunch and learns like, practically in my backyard. And so if you want to come out and meet people and connect and hear from speakers, it's an in-person event. If you need on a random Tuesday, you need help finding a 3PL because your 3PL fell through, you go into the Slack and you ask for questions there. So I do think that it helps to have a blend of in-person and online, because that's just the nature of relationships, is that, there are like startup CPGs, probably the biggest e-com community from a pure size standpoint with like 25,000 members. But very early on, they started taking their Slacks into locals, like Startup CPG Miami, Startup CPG New York, Startup CPG LA, with happy hours and events and stuff like that. If you even see like Workspace 6, which is a big e-com community, like they try to do meetups and stuff like that, because just meeting together puts a face to the name. And honestly, like that's what sponsors want more access to anyways. They want a physical event because then they can meet people too. But I mean, that was probably me rambling on a little bit, but the formula for me has been just consistently trying to do it. We've had events where almost nobody shows up. We've had events that have people standing out in the entryway waiting to get in. The Slack would be quiet for a week at a time or longer. And then there's days when there's 50 messages in there. So it's just a question of having I think a clear vision, and then making sure that you clearly like articulate that to people about why they should participate. And then you have to just show up in the community in ways. So like, if you wanted to do an email community, it's you're just constantly putting together events and resources and bringing people together. And then early on, it's really, really a grind. And then it's still a grind, but it's an easier grind. And we actually make money off of it now doing it. So
It's super interesting because like things look hard at the beginning, and I mean perhaps they stay hard, but then it kind of starts snowboarding, I guess, right? Like
it
that's
does.
like actual subscriptions do.
Right.
It's
Yep.
difficult to people subscribe, but then like the recurring revenue becomes snowboarding. Matt,
100%.
what's next for you? Like because you have a lot of stuff going on, you are busy. Like what excites you for the future? What do you want to be doing next?
Honestly, like subscription prescription feels like we're just barely getting started. We're trying to build an agency format where like I want the methodology that I was sharing. I want that as an operating system for subscriptions. That's what excites me is we want to keep working with clients and building up our business. And I have more and more people that are actually like me as a subscription doc helping to do this. But I really want to keep developing a playbook that anybody could use. Like I don't know if you're familiar with the story brand, but the story
Yeah.
brand to me is I'd like to be that for subscriptions. I would like subscription prescription to be for subscriptions as story brand is for marketing. Is kind of like my dream, I guess you could say, of kind of where we're going with it.
That's exciting. Well, I hope we get the chance to work together. I want to learn the framework as well. It sounds like you guys know what you're doing. So, Matt, thank you so much for taking
Thank
the
you, George.
time to meet with me today. It was a great chat.
It really was. It was great questions.